So, Proverbs, as we know, is kind of a book of very wise advice on how to approach and lead life. New King James says, the beginning of knowledge, the Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel. To know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, judgment, and equality, to give prudence to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. A wise man will hear and increase learning, and a man of understanding will attain wise counsel. To understand a proverb and an enigma, the words of the wise and their riddles. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. What this is basically saying is we have to be learners. We have to have open minds, spirits, hearts every day of our life. Not only when we first come to the Lord and begin our relationship, but even when we are well down that road. I think it's probably common that if you've been walking with the Lord for years, you kind of get comfortable in your stride. You kind of get used to how things are going. And my question is, if that is you, are you growing? Are you having new revelation? Are you discovering new secrets and new, are you just having those new love moments with the Lord? I think as we grow and we get more and more into life and responsibilities, it's easy to kind of feel like, oh yeah, we're good with God. Yeah, we know Jesus. But my question is, do you know him as well as he knows you? Do you? So we are starting off with Ephesians. It's Ephesians 6:14 through 18. And it's kind of funny in New King James and NIV, the paragraph's like this big, where I have it in my notes here as the Message translation. And I'll read it to you, but understand that the Message kind of expands to help for understanding versus going straight off what the Lord said. So Ephesians 6:14 through 18, if you're there, from the Message, says, be prepared. You're up against far more than you can handle on your own. Take all the help you can get, every weapon God has issued, so that when it's all over, but the shouting, you'll still be on your feet. Truth, righteousness, peace, faith, and salvation are more than words. I'm going to say that again. Truth, right, peace, faith, and salvation are more than words. Learn how to apply them. Learn how to apply them. You'll need them throughout your life. God's word is an indispensable weapon. In the same way, prayer is essential in this ongoing warfare. Pray hard and long. Pray for your brothers and sisters. Keep your eyes open. Keep each other's spirit up so that no one falls behind or drops out. And I'll stress the very last part of this. Pray for your brothers and sisters. Keep your eyes open. Keep each other's spirits. Keep each other's spirits up so that no one falls behind or drops out. We know the armor of God, or if you don't know the armor of God scripture also comes from Ephesians, same chapter, same actual verses in the traditional translations. But we have a piece of the armor of God called the belt of, what is it? Belt of? Okay. So when we talk about the belt of truth and all the other parts of the armor of God, I know when I was a child, I was taught to, put on the helmet, put on the breastplate, put on the belt, everything. And it kind of came to me as, these are things that we're putting on top. Makes sense. I would suggest to you today that we're not meant to put them on top. That they are meant to be up against our skin. When I say on top, I'll explain that a little bit more here in just a minute. But keep that in mind on how you've kind of pictured putting the armor of God on in your own in your own way. The belt of truth also, when we think of the belt, what do belts do? Yell some things out. If I put on a belt, what is it doing for me? Holding my pants up. Yep. What else? Holding your weapons. In times of Jesus, they used to kind of wear these robes things, so they would put those belts on and kind of arrange their robes. Sometimes they'd have to arrange them so they could run, because if not, all of that extra material would get caught in their feet. Other times they would arrange them so they had like little secret compartments so that they could hide things like the money purse or something else that maybe they were carrying. So belts were looked at as, well, then and now, as kind of a tool that we utilize, that we determine how are we going to use it, that we determine what's its purpose. The belt of truth is the exact opposite of that. We don't determine how we use it. We don't determine what it's for. That has all been determined for us by God, who gave it to us. But unfortunately, I think a lot of times we look at it as something that we wield versus that has something that God has given to us for us to understand its purpose and then bow to its purpose, be obedient to its purpose. When I say belt of truth, the first thing that comes to mind is probably not telling a lie, right? That's probably the first thing if you ask any child. You say, what's the belt of truth for? And it's like, so I don't lie. But it's for so much more. I looked it up in the concordance, and if you're not familiar what a concordance is, it is a book that basically takes the Bible translation back into the original language of either Greek or Hebrew. It's a really thick book. Online, you don't get the full impact of it, but when I carried a concordance around for years with me, and that thing probably weighs, I don't know, a good 10 pounds maybe. You get a workout. But when I looked up belt of truth in there, the word that the concordance pulled from that whole thing was truth. And we all think we know what truth is, right? If I say that I'm 7 foot tall and I have a beard, well, that's not truth. But in the biblical definition, one of the things that it says that it is reality. Truth is reality. And my question is, are we seeing God's reality? Not only around us, but in ourselves. Are we seeing ourselves in the reality that God would have us see ourselves in? That's part of the belt of truth, is seeing with the eyes of Jesus. Some words that I heard during this whole kind of, I'll call it download of this message about the belt of truth. I'm going to read you just a few of them. It says, the belt of truth, it girds us up. It's a support girdle. It lets us stand straight and upright. It allows the body to see as the torso and head is lifted and held high. It allows for a better sightline, allows for better breath and stamina, and actually protects body because of aligning properties of the belt. So when you're wearing the belt of truth and you are bowing to its purpose, which is God's purpose, and you are seeing the reality in which God sees, God's reality, that whole action lifts you physically, spiritually, I would even say emotionally, into a higher level of sight. It aligns not only yourself, but all of our fellowship, all of our congregation, all of those that we are around. When we're all standing with the belt of truth properly worn and understood, we are all walking that same path because we're all understanding reality in the same way. It opens, when you stand up straight, I don't know how many of you maybe were in choir or have sung in your life, but one of the first things when you're singing is you have to have good posture. Why is that? Because it opens up your rib cage to support more breath. Again, when you're bowing to the purpose of the belt of truth, you not only have a higher sight line and see more clearly, but everything that you do, that endurance, which is so, so important, because that's what allows us to fight the good fight, or to pray until, or to support each other like Jesus did, never ceasing. The belt of truth, though we are called to put it on, is purposed by God for us. We reap the benefits when we bow to the belt, when we bow to the belt's purpose, but we do not control or utilize it as we see fit. It is God's provision for our obedience. Again, God's provision for our obedience. We cannot say we are wearing the belt of truth and stand in lies, misinformation, presumptions, or even stereotypes. Hey, are you going to be wise or are you going to be a fool right now, as Proverbs says? This is instruction. We cannot stand in lies, misinformation, presumptions, or even stereotypes. We cannot look the other way at transgressions, which is sins, hidden agendas, poor behavior, or choices made by ourselves or those who are leading. The shadows that linger in our flesh lives must be lit up with the truth. The truth will set you free from those influencers, strongholds, unforgiveness, and judgment, suffered and delivered. If you have had wrongness done to you, which I've never met anyone who has not suffered something, there is a good chance that there might be something in there that is causing a judgment, a stereotype, a predisposition, something. And I'm not dismissing that wrong didn't hurt or didn't potentially cause great harm. But we're not called to hold on to those things. We have to let go of those things. Think of it this way. Think if every time somebody said something bad to you, you put on a coat, you put on a sock, you put on some earmuffs. Okay? Just think for a minute. Think of things that have hurt you, things that it's just like, oh man, it may sting, but you know it's probably still affecting how you do life. Maybe it's trusting someone. Maybe someone very close to you has lost your trust or has broken your trust. What piece of clothing have you put on? Have you put on sunglasses? You can't really see it anymore. You're just going to ignore it. You put on a coat to kind of, make the blows to your gut or to your heart kind of, give you some softening of it. Have you put on shoes so you can just step right over it and keep on going? What have you put on? We all have stuff on. Unless your name is Jesus, which I'm pretty sure nobody walked in the door saying they were Jesus today, right? I mean, he's here, but none of us are him. My question is, what does your outfit look like? Just think in your mind, picture yourself, and think about your outfit. What does it look like? A hat, earmuffs, sunglasses, boots. Maybe you got waders on, those fishing waders. Okay, now my question. Does the belt of truth fit you? No. There is no way the belt of truth made by God, given to us, is going to fit over all that stuff. We may, suck in our guts, kind of like for the skinny jeans, lay down on the ground, do all that kind of stuff to get it on there like, yes, we got it on. But the question is it serving the way that it's supposed to? Is it up against our skin so that we feel it, we know it, it's familiar? Is it able to support us? If it's so tight that we got it on, are we actually able to breathe in it? That's what this is about. That's why it's so important that we don't have those misinformations, presumptions, stereotypes, lies, transgressions, hidden agendas, poor behaviors, or choices made by us or those other than us to or by us. All of those things. We have to wake up and understand we all have stuff. I grew up in a church that was very family oriented, it was called the Good Time Hour. And it was every Sunday after church. And this is when potlucks used to be like potlucks. This was in the 70s, okay? So, you would show up and there would be a spread. 6 different types of fried chicken. 7 different types of potato salad. You name it. It was a spread. When you would go to this, everybody was family. Everybody was on the same page. Everybody knew everyone, whose granddaughter you were, whose uncle's son. Even if you were new that day and it was your first day, you just felt like this is where I belong. That type of feeling, which I feel, I'm going to go out on a limb, but I feel like everybody kind of wants that type of feeling in their life. Not only in their family unit, but even beyond that. To feel like you are part of, I'll say it, a tribe. We can't get to that if none of us can get our belts of truth on. And that's just one piece of the armor, guys. We have to be real with ourselves, and we have to be real with each other. Doesn't give you permission to go up to someone and say, I've been meaning to tell you, and da-da-da-da-da, and da-da-da-da-da-da. But it does mean speaking truth, which is led by God. It does mean putting yourself into a position where not only God can mirror to you, but fellow Christians can mirror to you in a positive, supportive way. And I'll tell you, when you're on the other side of that, when you're mirroring to someone, it is scary. Because you don't know how they're going to respond to your words. You could be looking at a friend, husband, wife, child, a pastor. You could be looking at them and saying, I really need to tell them that when they say this or that they do this, I really feel like God is saying, we need to look at this. We need to examine this. That can be the scariest thing in the world. Because what are we all afraid of? What do none of us want to have happen when we approach someone and tell them something? What is the last thing we want to have happen? Say it again? Well, who do you think you are? Oh, well, that's nice, but I see a lot of stuff across the aisle, just saying. Right? When you are led by Lord and you are leading with your heart, to put it out there and have that fear, which we're not supposed to pay attention to fear. Fear is not from God. When we put our heart out there, and I will guarantee you it will get stomped on, guys. We are all flesh. But that's what we're called to do. We're called to minister to each other in all ways as Jesus did. How many times does Jesus tell James and John to knock it off? Sons of thunder, lightning, whatever, just knock it off. You're missing the point. Get with the program. Right? Seeking God's will cannot be found or properly understood if there is not truth that holds the body upright and supports it. Yes, it is God's truth that the belt represents, but is God's truth your truth? Does your life choices and motives reflect Jesus? Do you rely on hearsay and relayed information, or do you seek the truth in everyday life, like Jesus? Is the man crazy, blind, and hopeless, or is there a healing, a message, an understanding that just hasn't been seen yet because no one has sought truth through Jesus' eyes? Seeking truth versus perception. Truth versus perception. Perception is of the flesh. Discernment is of the spirit, but perception is of the flesh. What does that look like? It looks like this. Well, you know, I don't know for sure, but what I think, you know, this looks really like the time that such and such did such and such. We all have those thoughts. We may even say those words. Oh my gosh, this situation feels like this, and it's stirring up all this stuff in me, and oh my gosh, I got to get out of here. There's no way that this is a good situation. Okay, is that your perception or is it truth? You have to ask yourself those things. I understand we all have like those gut feelings, like don't walk down a dark alley, you know, in a bad part of town, when there's lots of muggings going on. I get that. But this is an everyday life. How many times during work do you avoid somebody because you heard a story about them and this is what they've done and da-da-da-da-da-da, and you're like, wow, I don't need that in my life. Maybe they need you in their life. Seeking truth versus perception, truth versus current understandings, truth versus lie, truth versus opinion. This is the lens that should be the norm for all things. Look to see, seek to understand, listen to hear. Without truth in your life and those that serve with you, there will never be cleared or agreed upon discernment. I would suggest, and please, I'm putting my heart out there, guys. If you're in any organization that they're turning right and you want to turn left, before you decide that, yep, we should turn left and everybody who's wanting to turn right is all wrong, check yourself with God and a fellow who's walking down that road with you, who will speak truth to you. Not that friend who tells you you're awesome, you're wonderful, you're super, you're the greatest thing ever. Oh my gosh, let's get the pom-poms out. We all need those cheerleaders, don't get me wrong. I need cheerleaders in my life at times. But I need that person who will be vulnerable and put their heart out, knowing that, oh my gosh, I might offend them. They're such a good friend. I don't want to make them angry. I don't want to make them sad. But they're willing to put themselves that vulnerable to me to speak truth to me that I need. It's not meant to hurt. It's not meant to put in your place. It's meant truthfully. And if you put your heart out there, regardless if you think you can do it or you have the words or whatever, I will guarantee you God's going to show up. And he's going to put the right words in your mouth and let him. Don't think, oh, but it would sound so much better if I did it this way. You don't know what's on the other side of the fence there. When God gives you words in those moments, use those words, even if it sounds weird and you're pretty sure it would be so much better this way. Use his words, because those are the words that penetrate, that get through strongholds, that get through walls, that get through that big old down jacket that we've put on, and then we put that belt of truth on and we're walking like, what's that Christmas movie that the mom dresses them up and everything? Christmas Story. Yeah, everybody, you know, that whole thing, and the kids walking like this trying to go play in the snow. I feel like that's what, I know I look like that at days. There are days that I look like that going out in the world going, yeah, I'm going to win it for God, and I'm like this. Okay? We all wear emotional, physical, psychological, and even spiritual coverings. Spiritual coverings in this sense could be the wrong kind of spiritual coverings. Okay? When Adam and Eve sinned, the first thing they did, what is the first thing they did after they sinned? I'm sorry, say it again. Hide. And what did they hide? And what did they put on? Clothing. The first thing they did was they covered themselves up because they felt naked. Were they naked before? Absolutely. But did they really care about that fact before? No. Their nakedness was and is the purest sense of truth. Okay, let that soak in for a minute. Your emotional, spiritual, and that's where I'm going to end that list, nakedness is the purest sense of truth. When you can stand in front of someone and say, look, I got a bruise here. I had stitches here. Oh yeah, I got a really bad hit here and it's lumpy and there's some stuff going on there. When you can stand in front of someone spiritually, emotionally naked, that's when that armor of God, man, shoot, that's when that stuff is its most powerful. When God doesn't have to worry about getting through that coat or those earmuffs or those sunglasses to use you as his vessel to minister to someone. Or even when you come to God like that on your own and God can say, this is my child, I recognize him, he's not hiding, I don't have to look for him in the garden. Where did he go? Oh, I didn't recognize you with the sunglasses and coat on. Did he recognize you? Yeah. But the point is, God wants us spiritually, emotionally, like the way he created us. As we grow in life, we put on figurative clothes, and unfortunately, we also wear figurative belts or sashes to manage all those layers. We tuck things in the folds we feel we need, or carry weapons or masks to protect and hide ourselves. We all feel our nakedness is unacceptable to ourselves and others. We try and put on the armor of God, but it doesn't fit right. And the belt of truth won't buckle because it's meant to be our skin, not layers of stuff. Everyone has their go-to areas for share time and testimony time. What I mean by that? We all have our comfort zones, right? If I were to go ahead and bring up the microphone and I say, hey, I need somebody to testify about a powerful time in your life, there's going to be people who raise their hands that will come up and testify, and it will be a powerful time in their life, and it'll be incredible, but it is one that they are comfortable sharing. It is one that they have probably shared a lot of times before. And it's amazing. But how much more amazing is the healing that God has for us in areas that maybe it wasn't as pretty or poetic. Maybe it was the really ugly cry time. I have an awesome ugly cry. I don't know if any of you guys have ugly cries, but oh boy, I got a great ugly cry in some of those times. That's that nakedness that I'm talking about. That's something that someone can relate to because that truth pierces through that down jacket, that vest, that coat, and hits them right in the heart. It gets underneath those earmuffs. It penetrates their brain and brings revelation, which then shifts to the heart. We have to get down to the t-shirt sock layers and figuratively be willing to stand naked. Just a thought. Okay, if you have an answer to this, shout it out. The fan's a little bit loud, so make sure you shout. Do you know why there were not any mirrors in the Garden of Eden? Oh, come on. I was waiting for somebody to say, hadn't been invented yet. Nothing? Okay. Because Adam and Eve were made to rely on God and each other to be mirrors. They were made to rely on each other to dust off the unknown dirt and encourage the beauty that is in God's creation. We are not made to be a self-mirror. We are not made to be a self-mirror. I talk to people a lot of times. I'll say, hey, do you want to come to church? And they go, oh, that's okay, I know Jesus. I just, find him in the woods when I'm hunting. Or, well, I just talk to him when I'm at the grocery store, or I just read my Bible at night, and that's enough. And those are great things. I'm not slamming those. Please do not hear that. But what I'm suggesting, why did God make Eve? What did Adam need? A helper. Okay. Original man, Adam, if he needed a helper, if God says, I just made you from the dirt and you need a helper, you think we might need helpers? Seriously, yeah, I need a helper. We are not made to be self-mirrors. It doesn't say that God can't reveal to you an area that he's like, not really loving this. We really need to get rid of this. I want to fill that space that this stuff is in. God will do that to you all the time. But it doesn't mean you're on your own. You have your friends, you have your family, you have other fellow Christians that are willing to walk that walk to help you through that. And I'll give you a word of warning. If you are walking that walk with someone who doesn't allow you to mirror to them, be careful. It's just as much as you do. It doesn't mean that different people in different roles may not be having that mirror activity with someone. But if you know for sure that you and Jill are the only ones that talk and you're the wonder duo and you're the power of two and da-da-da-da-da, and you know that Jill's not talking to anybody and you're not talking to anybody else, and Jill's like, oh, no, I already dealt with that. Yeah, I know all about that. No, don't worry about it. Oh, yeah, you must have your wires crossed. If they have just defended and put up that wall, be careful. They need that breakthrough just as much as you do. Pray on it. Don't go attitude on them. But just be aware. Again, Adam and Eve were made to rely on each other to dust off the unknown dirt and encourage the beauty that is God's creation. We were not made to be a self-mirror. We need God and each other to speak the hard truths, good and not so good. Proverbs 29:1. Whomever remains stiff-necked after many rebukes will suddenly be destroyed without remedy. The word rebuke, I don't know if you grew up in King James or New King James, you're familiar with the word rebuke. If not, it kind of means like called out. Okay? Somebody is telling you, hey, you did this wrong, something happened wrong, da-da-da-da-da. Rebuking from a flesh standpoint does not feel good. But it's not about what our flesh feels. It's about what is spiritually needed. Sometimes we have to rebuke those people in our own households. And we're not necessarily rebuking them, we're not rejecting them, but we may be rebuking or rejecting what's coming out of their mouth, maybe where they're operating from, because we are all God's children. But sometimes we don't act like we're all God's children. And sometimes when we're deep enough in our mud puddle, when I get in those times when I'm just like, woe is me, I have my juniper tree experience, I can be in the throes of it, drama, everything. And if someone comes up to me in there and just be like, well, I don't know why this is so bad, yeah, I'm not going to receive it. But if someone comes up being led by God, using his words, not their opinion, and says, Jen, God has created you for so much more than this. I know you've stumbled. I know this hurts. Hurt is real. It really is. Hurt of the flesh is real. It's how we address and move through the hurt. It doesn't have to be our crutch for the rest of our life. But that's the type of truth that is needed. That's the type of truth that gets us standing upright, seeing further, and being able to speak and walk and even receive more of what God has for us. So I'd like to close with a song, and Amy's got it pulled up. But before that, I just don't know if there's anything, Keith, that you have to share. I do have something I'd like Linda to share that she shared with me earlier. Do you have anything? Okay, Linda, why don't you come on up? The microphone is right here on the front row here. Okay, well, here, let me see that. And you, okay, and go ahead and talk about the first thing. There you go.
Today, the Lord spoke to me and he said, do you remember that song, The House of the Rising Sun? Well, I feel in my heart, the Lord was saying to me that the sun is rising. He's in the process of rising. So, whatever that you want to take away from that. And while we were worshiping today, the Lord spoke to me and he said, the enemy wants you to detach yourself from the word. And in doing so, when you do that, you're going through a problem, like Jen was talking about problems, things that you're going through. If you don't get into the word, then the enemy takes that word from you that you're not getting, and then you deceive yourself and you are not, believing who you really are. The more the enemy can get you away from the word of God, the more that you will begin to not believe who you are in Christ. Because he wants to take that word away from you and he wants you to think you're nothing. But you are absolutely precious in God's eyes. And so that's what, he was sharing with me during the worship, that we need to stay in the Word every day, even if we don't feel good, whatever we're going through, because then we're going to stay strong.
And that's the truth. We need to be in the Word. We need to be in worship. We need to be in fellowship with each other. If you are having a day and the enemy's piling it on, I'm sure everyone's had a day where situations have made you just feel less unworthy, not a called Christian. Those are the times where you really need to reach out and have somebody else speaking that truth. I understand that you can go to the Word, that's awesome, but you need others in your life as well.